The movie starts with a scene from the 19th century, showing a wealthy family. A beautiful young lady lives in this wealthy family called Eugenie. She was bestowed with a special ability, and talked openly with her brother in the family, who was the only one who knew about her special abilities. She was even able to talk to the dead ones and spiritual personalities. Also, when she speaks to the dead, she experiences breathing difficulties. She was considered as mad by the person in front of her, as she used to receive messages from the dead ones as she was growing older. She goes to put her grandmother to bed one day and asks if she went to her friend's funeral. She doesn't respond and answers like a normal person. She said, "Yes, I went there and got a chance to talk to many people." Actually, she was talking about the dead people here. Her grandma was also used to her behavior, and she stayed worried because of her. Her grandma doesn't answer her. Eugenie goes to the market with her brother. She wasn't allowed to go alone, and enjoyed it a lot. She wanders in the streets, and then goes to a cafe, and sees a man there, reading a book about spirits. This man introduces himself to Eugenie, and talks to her for a long time. Eugenie tells him she isn't interested in him, or even his talks. She was just watching the book, and when the boy discovers this, he gives the book to Eugenie for a night. Now, Eugenie can read this book for a night. The book was quite interesting. She brought the book home, and reads the book for the whole night. Reading the book, she understands her purpose, and how she can communicate with the spirits. The siblings are shown to have belonged to a rich family. Eugenie's father talks to her, but her father doesn't like her. He doesn't love her, as she didn't fulfill the expectations of her father. Her father was an arrogant man, who didn't like girls who were humble, and kind, and helped the poor. Eugenie was never able to understand the definition of being rich. His father used to think that poor girls are kind and humble. So, the girls who are kind appear to be poor, and don't look like rich girls. Being rich means being arrogant and proud. Similarly, their relationship was weak. She used to brush her grandma's hair daily. One day, while she was brushing her grandma's hair, suddenly, a dead soul tries to talk to her, and she immediately leaves the care of her grandma. She takes out the things from the drawer, and finds a necklace. Grandma was surprised to see the necklace. Because it was a gift from her husband many years ago, Eugenie's grandma asks, "Who told you that the necklace is here?" Eugenie's condition was worse, and says, "Grandfather talked to me now. He told me where is the necklace." The next morning, Eugenie's mother comes to wake her up and says, "Wake up, Eugenie. Get ready, as your father takes you to the store," and she becomes happy to hear this. As her father never took her to a store like this, even though he didn't allow her to go to the market alone. Eugenie is an innocent girl, and doesn't notice the changed behavior of her brother and father on the way. Their behavior was quite weird and abnormal. Meanwhile, she noticed the things under her father's seat in the vehicle in which they were taking her. During this, she understood that something wrong would happen, and asked her brother, "Where are you taking me?" She sees outside the window, and a lady is staring at her strangely. She gets scared, and then she is shown dragged by two men into the building. Eugenie shouts and cries for help while calling her brother and father. They were watching her silently and mercilessly. Eugenie is taken inside the building, and her brother is shown. He was scared and vomiting. He was ashamed and felt guilty for bringing her sister to this place. He was wondering what they would do with her. Now Eugenie is shown taken inside, and is being examined. It seemed that the only purpose of her life left now was to prove that she wasn't mad. Later, Eugenie was taken into a room with many mad ladies. Some of them were like Eugenie. They were not mad, but they were kept here after being tortured. There was another lady like Eugenie, and she helped her to settle here. Then Eugenie's friend was called for treatment. Some male doctors called her, and started her treatment. Eugenie noticed that they were not treating her as a patient, but they were treating her like an object and hypnotizing her. The doctor was treating her badly, even though she went unconscious, and fell down. Even then, they didn't take pity on her, and there wasn't any doctor who took care of the patients. There was only a nurse who took care of all the patients. The nurse's name was Genevieve. She was a head nurse, and knew all those doctors very well. She felt pity for all these girls, but couldn't go against them. Eugenie didn't tell anyone about her powers yet. She was scared as she knew she would be selected for experiments after it. One day, she told Genevieve about her sister's message. Genevieve's sister, who died many years ago, used to contact Eugenie. Head nurse Genevieve didn't believe her, but when Eugenie told her the secrets between her and her sister, she was amazed but didn't comment. Instead left. And the next day was Eugenie's final evaluation, and the doctors asked her a lot of questions. The doctor made her say and agree that she could talk to the spirits and dead ones. When she agreed, the doctors said they would take her to the asylum and keep her a little longer than others. On this decision, Eugenie becomes furious and madly shouts at the doctors. Unfortunately, she made a huge mistake while shouting at them. The doctor confirmed that she was a patient of hysteria when she shouted. The hysteria patients were kept in a box full of ice, and the patient was kept in the box for long hours. Even the patient's body becomes wet and numb. They were unable to feel the pain at this level. This treatment doesn't help patients recover, instead, it worsens their condition. Eugenie was also given this treatment. In the next scene, the head nurse, Genevieve, was seen who was returning to her house. Meanwhile, she noticed someone was chasing her, and learned it was Eugenie's brother. He was so tensed and worried about her sister, and told Genevieve that his sister had the power to talk to the spirits. He gave her Eugenie's book to prove this. He asked her to give this book to Eugenie. This matter got the interest of Genevieve. She spent the whole night reading the book. The book and the scenario disturbed her, and she kept thinking about this matter. Reading it, she felt Eugenie was saying true and said everything right when she talked to her sister. In the next scene, the asylum is shown, where Eugenie is released from the painful treatment of hysteria. Eugenie's condition was bad as she came after laying on the ice for such a long time. Even she couldn't sleep at night. Then the head nurse, Genevieve, is seen to come to Eugenie and asks her for help in communicating with her dead sister. Also, she offered Eugenie her help in return, where she would help her in meeting her brother. Eugenie said that she wasn't interested in meeting or contacting her brother. All she wants is to get out of this place. Her only goal is to move out of that asylum. She just wants freedom. Eugenie tried a lot but couldn't contact Genevieve's sister. Eugenie's condition worsened during this stance, and she said, "Your father is in danger." Genevieve ran to her house to see her father and found a napkin at the table. The napkin was soaked in blood, and she found her father, who was about to lose consciousness. She rescued her father on time, and time passed like this in the asylum. A month passed, and Eugenie was regularly placed on the ice to treat hysteria, and she suffered through this pain daily. Also, they were not behaving well with other ladies at the asylum. One day, Eugenie noticed that a patient's condition was getting worse. This all was the result of overdoses of negative medications during the experimentations. She said in anger and frustration, "You all are responsible for the condition of those patients." Due to this, she was punished and sent for isolation as she was yelling and shouting at those doctors. The room where she was residing was dark and horrifying. A window was locked, but the nurse often opened it. Now, she doesn't do this, and Eugenie isn't even allowed to see the light. She was a strict nurse and considered patients as toys. While staying in this room, Eugenie used to talk to many spirits who lived there. These spirits died while staying in this horrific room. Eugenie was even more scared of all this. She was calling the nurse again and again who brought her here. But her voice seemed like music to that nurse, who was heartless and merciless. Eugenie wasn't able to eat due to the disturbing noise of spirits. One day, the nurse comes to her room and scolds her, but Eugenie doesn't respond to her. She stayed silent there and ate tasty food in front of Eugenie. Seeing all this, Eugenie responded by saying, "I can see your mother," and says, "I talked to your mother, and she also died in this same room." The nurse agreed and said, "Yes, I have ended my mother in this room. You are right that my mother died in this room. Then Eugenie took out the topic of her children, and said your kids were ended by your mother. The nurse became vulnerable, and started weeping while hearing this. Afterward, she holds Eugenie's neck and forbids her to take the name of her kids, and all this story in front of her. After all this, the nurse leaves. As the nurse was leaving, a girl collided with her and took keys from her secretly. She handed over these keys to Genevieve. The stealing of keys from the nurse was Genevieve's plan. Then, she went near Eugenie's door, and talked to her. Eugenie told everything about her sister to the head nurse. She got shocked to hear all this, and thanked her for conveying the information, and became the source of communication between the two sisters. She promised she would do anything to take Eugene out of this hell. Genevieve said to the doctor that Eugenie is better now. So, she should be taken out of isolation, and can be shifted with others. The doctor suspected the head nurse. Even then, he allowed her to shift Eugenie to the common ward. Fortunately, Eugenie was taken out of that horrific room, due to the efforts of the head nurse. After a long, she saw and felt air, and light. Eugenie was feeling much better and healthy now. She sighed relief at this, and became happy to meet her friends. But Eugenie was shocked to see her best friend in the wheelchair, as a result of the wrong experiments of the doctor. Now, the day comes when all the patients are given a chance to have a moment of joy by wearing new clothes. The patients enjoy the day, and are seen to be happy on this day. Surprisingly, Eugenie's brother was also invited to attend this party. She saw her brother, and pretended she didn't know him, and he was a stranger. They pretended this, to execute the plan of escape. Unfortunately, the nurse who ended her mother saw them escaping, and tried to hold them, but another lady held the nurse. The lady became mad, and started attacking the doctors there. This lady was just trying to teach them a lesson, about how they were treating the patients. She wanted them to feel the pain of the patients. Genevieve, the head nurse, didn't go with Eugenie, but decided to help the patients and ladies who needed her help. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel. Stay tuned, as we will come up with much more new and exciting movie recaps like this. Till then, goodbye.